Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the stream. It is 9 o'clock. It is August 9th, and we are getting ready to play the finals of the Summer Derby for Old School Magic. Appreciate everybody joining the stream today. A couple of things real quick, just so you are aware. I do have a couple of co-hosts today. We've got Sean Sullivan and Seth Roncaroni, and we'll be switching to them in just a moment. If you have not done so, please, I ask that you join me each week for my regularly scheduled stream Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I stream 3 rounds of Old School Magic as part of the Northern Paladins Tuesday night gauntlet. So don't forget to follow, turn on those notifications so that you know when I go live. All right. Another thing, too, is that coming up is LobsterCom. LobsterCom is going to be September 18th through the 20th, and registration begins Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, August 12th. Registration will open for LobsterCom, so be on the lookout for that, and it'll be a webcam tournament. You will have all kinds of fun, brought to you by DFB and, of course, New England Old School. All right, these are best of 5 matches. So just so you're aware, no sideboards for games 1 and 2. Games that result in a draw will not count towards wins or losses. All right, and the first to 3 games, to 3 game wins, will win the match. So. I'm bringing it into my 2 co-hosts here. We've got Sean and Seth. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me, and welcome to the stream.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, Seth, you're muted. Well, it sounds like we're having some.
Seth, you should be in the whereby chat, not the Discord chat.
Yeah.
My bad. Wrong.
Okay. Yeah. Mute yourself in the Discord, please.
That's what we're talking about. Basically.
It's all good.
There we go.
Technical difficulties. That's fine. That's fine that we have technical difficulties. All right. So, guys, thank you for joining me tonight. I think we got a pretty good match on tap. So, for those who are new to the stream or who don't know you guys, Seth and Sean, why don't you guys tell me and tell the viewers a little bit about each of you?
Sorry, we go first.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Seth.
Oh, want me?
Yeah, go ahead, Seth.
So I am Seth Roncaroni, and I'm one of the Sisters of Flame. So here in New York, been playing Old School for a while now, and probably know me for my affinity for playing some Fan Alliance. But other than that, I've been playing Magic since about, I guess, Revise was on the shelf. So entirely too long, probably, but it's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm Sean Sullivan. I'm in the Emerald City Trolls, so based in Seattle. And there we go. I've been playing Old School since about in 2018. I started up. Before that, I got into Magic during 4th edition, and was here and there for a while. And I have reasons for both of these guys. I want them to win. So David knocked me out in semis in the deck mirror. So if he wins, I lost to the champ. And Pez is one of my really good friends. He was one of the first people in Old School really that I became friends with. And so, we just want to see a good match.
One quick thing, Sean. I saw the Mariners cap, but what about the Seattle Kraken?
Oh man, I'm so excited for the Kraken. So they killed it on the name. The branding is so good. I'm excited to have a hockey team. I don't want to have to root for the Canucks anymore, and it's just going to be awesome. I'm very, very excited.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so we're bringing you our players now. We have the 8th seed Pez Unholy and the 11th seed David Third. Both of them have been on the stream before. So, gentlemen, welcome. And we'll start with Pez. So why don't you tell us again, remind the viewers a little bit about you and a little bit about the deck that you're playing.
From Pittsburgh. I started playing old school. Well, it's kind of weird. I got into old school around 2010 from MG's blog, but I didn't actually play against anybody for like 7 years. The Pittsburgh doesn't really have too much of a play group. It's Iron City old school, but we don't really get together too much, especially after COVID.
Right.
And today I'm playing a burn deck with Savannah Lions and Dibs and Vices.
All right. And you had 4 good games yesterday. Again, we talked about this before. Textbook example of players can learn from you about how to use your life total as a resource. So I hope that people can learn from your match regardless of how it goes. And hoping that we can have some good games. Now, is there anything that you're worried about when it comes to Dave's deck?
I was packing the 12-pack removal and abysses, so probably going to be a war.
Okay. Alrighty. So we're going to come over to you, Dave, now. We got your deck on the screen. So again, remind everybody a little bit about you and a little bit about your deck.
Sure. So I'm based in New York, but obviously from my accent, I'm British. I've been in New York for going up on 10 years at this point. I used to play a lot of vintage, like back in the day, and then a couple of years ago, I kind of transitioned over to wanting to play some old school. I normally play kind of control lists anyway. So my deck is obviously just the deck. There's very little in terms of flex spots. I mean, I would say maybe there's a couple of power sinks in there, which is a little unusual. The second abyss is maybe, an option, and then Mirror Universe is also kind of maybe a little unusual. But apart from that, it's pretty standard. I'm playing, 4 colors. I'm not playing red. Don't really rate Red Blast at this point, and I don't feel like I need the Fireball. So yeah, I mean, what am I worried about Pez's deck? I mean, my life total going too low too quickly. That's the way I'm going to lose. So yeah, I think it's going to be pretty apparent how it's going. Just look at my side of the scoreboard, and that'll kind of tell you the story of the match, I think.
All right. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I think you performed well up until this point, and you are still piling a very, very good deck. Now, I know that Pez has taken out a couple of different versions of the deck along his way, so we'll definitely see what happens. So, gentlemen, if you want to go ahead and you can shuffle up for the game, and the 3 of us are going to duck out of the room. Our mics will be off, but we'll come in if we need to. Okay, now the players cannot hear us. The 3 of us are in a Discord chat, a voice chat. If you're watching the stream, you will be able to hear the players, and you'll be able to hear the commentary. Now, Seth and Sean will be doing most of the commentary for the stream today. So, hoping that we have a good match. And
I was listening to the stream. We're watching it earlier today, and that guy that said I was wasting time by polyshuffling go fuck himself.
The players.
I'm muted. They're muted on my screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right. So that was actually pretty funny. So, all right, gentlemen, it is your show. You are in the driver's seat. I just hope that people enjoy the stream, and don't forget to follow me and follow my stream. Oop, I need to rearrange the people on the stream because of that. So bear with me for one moment while I do this. Do this.
All right, Dave, I'm going to cut my deck, okay?
Do this. Okay.
Can we do piles?
Pause?
Then we
Piles, sorry.
Oh. Yeah.
the streamers
You want me to
are
cut it a
ready
different way?
and raring to go.
Oh no, yeah, we just like this. Like
And
okay,
I'm
so
going to shut
almost
up
done.
now,
Hang on.
guys. So you
Like
guys
this,
enjoy,
sit down,
and
Sure.
we will.
and then you just order them how you want.
We'll be. You'll
All right,
be
put your
hearing
middle one on
Seth
top
and
of the one
Sean.
on the right,
So
and put those
Thank
on
you,
top of the
Reggie.
other ones.
All right, the one on your
All right,
left-hand
so
side.
let's see. They're cutting
Yeah,
it
on
up
top.
here.
Then number
Pez
3.
has the
Oh, that's
higher
fine.
seed, so
Don't
he's
worry
going to be
about
on the play.
Wait, what do you want me to do this one? You want this on top
No,
or
you're
bottom?
good.
Obviously, a
No,
big deal
that-
for this
that-
match.
Yeah, I mean,
on top of
it
the
can't
Zach,
go
you're very
under
familiar
David.
with the deck he's
Good.
playing. So what are you looking to
You're
draw
good.
here? What's your opening 7 you want to see?
I mean,
Alright,
I
I'm
think
on
there's
the
a
play
few
now.
ways he can do it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's either he
Good
gets a
luck.
vice or a
too.
lion or just the broken restricted stuff. I think
I'll
you know
keep.
on the play, I think the fact that he has the vice and is on the play is more David's mind really because David has to like just not lose to a vice hand.
Mm-hmm.
At least listen. I am a terrible deck player. I've played a whole like 5 games with it.
Yeah.
I have no swords for my
But
lion.
I think that's what kind of where Pez is like. If he's going to draw vice, this is the game to do it, and it puts
Right.
pressure on David a lot.
I will.
But something like that,
And
Okay. Ready?
David's just got
Yep.
the 4 disenchants and I guess Chaos Orb to
Go.
deal with the. Oh, we got a double vice
There you go.
opener for Pez. Wow, so that's the heat right there. This takes a lot of puts a lot of pressure on David. It means things like library are also awful. So like any hand, if David was gonna like library this thing, it's a
Lotus.
terrible plan.
yeah. I mean, I think
Fire.
in general, library is just really bad against these like lion/dib/12 burn spell lists because you just fall so far behind. But I mean, David has it's a Lotus and a Sapphire, right? And no
Yeah,
land
he's
drop
got
yet.
Lotus Sapphire, and assuming he's got a land drop, he's gonna get to, and even if he doesn't play anything, he'll be on 5 cards at that point.
I
Check
think this
my
shows sort of like the power of vice on the play though, because it basically was 2 bolts.
Right.
And
Yeah,
you know,
5
if you talk to
cards
Pez, he's
it's 2 bolts
Yep.
with upside. It's just pure upside at this point.
Blue.
he loves it as long
Watson?
as it's a shock.
Sure.
I mean, I think I want a little
Okay.
more out of my cards, but you know, he's happy
Wow.
if it just
How many
gives
cards
him
you
a
got
shock.
now?
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, you good?
So-
That's very interesting
Yep.
from David. So he plays under the vice, but he strips the factory,
Go.
plays the Felwar off the Lotus, which is now not active because
How many
Pez
cards
has
you
no
got left?
lands, and Pez is going to just sit here
4.
and watch David draw cards with double vice on the table, and he can't use his
Right.
Felwar, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the strip wasn't terrible
Factory
from
go.
David's perspective because you might catch
Is that
Pez
done, right?
keeping a less than stellar
Yeah.
hand because he knows he has got double vice. Like that
Go.
is the nuts, so to speak.
Pez just accidentally might have flashed his hand there, and that might have been an Ancestral in there.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So he's continuing to let David draw cards. Maybe,
Tundra.
maybe he just doesn't have any more lands. That's also a possibility.
Right.
With an opener with Mox land, vice, maybe you just keep that.
Exactly. It's like I think Pez has to keep it, and so like David's play wasn't terrible because it gets him under vice,
Sorry?
develops his mana
Yep.
base,
You got 3
and then
cards?
if Pez is land
Yep.
short,
Yeah.
he's
Animate
able to
swing.
really just he takes one. To,
18.
you know, he took a lot of damage, but he's
Go
back
ahead.
in this
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, and now
Lion.
this is
Yep.
sorry,
Go.
what did he just mana burn for 2
Cards in hand.
for some reason there?
Same. 5.
5.
Glare's a little
Oh, no,
bad.
he
so-
attacked the
Turn.
factory. That's what it was. Okay. He
Yeah, I
attacked the
can't actually
factory.
tell it's a factory.
Yeah, that's a factory under the glare. So, but yeah,
Okay,
interesting.
see?
David's got a really wide mana advantage now, and Pez has no main deck artifact destruction aside from Chaos Orb. So, if he can find a book here, or this is probably a Brain Geyser,
55.
Mind Twist.
Mind
Yeah,
Twist.
that's gonna be rough for Pez. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was an
Alex,
ancestral.
oh god.
Go ahead.
That's real rough.
2.
That's David's now up.
Yep.
Probably 6 or 7 cards or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with like the Lions list is, you know, they don't. If you fall behind, you don't really have the cards to catch up. Like you can kind of just sometimes throw down a draw 7 and it works.
Ancestral.
Yep.
Sure.
Mhm.
But against the deck, like when you fall behind in mana like this, you're really you're scrambling, right? Like his
Yeah.
outs are like balance,
Right.
ancestral, and we've seen both of those go to the yard.
Yeah, it was balance in there too. Balance into
I
the
think
yard.
so. I think he showed a balance in his hand.
Yeah, so David Ancestral's
Play
here,
a
going
Tundra.
up even more cards. Plays, possibly it's a Tundra there, under the glare. Can't really tell.
Book.
4 mana. That's
Yeah.
got to be a book, right?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
How many cards you got?
So
I mean, I
Pez
guess-
is on his heels here, needing to find something. Probably he needs like land and a draw 7
Go.
and no counter out of David.
Right.
Untap.
Yeah, he's in a real tough spot
Draw for 10.
just because like you have to assume that David has a counterspell by this point. Because he runs the 5, right?
Underground
Counterspell,
Sea.
Mana Drain, and
Yeah.
2 Power Sinks.
Take 2
Power
for a
Sinks.
Fellwar Stone.
That's
And he's got a
7.
million mana, and there's another Fellwar. So he's just
Go.
continuing to pull it. The Fellwars are still dead, but like they kind of don't matter. And as soon as Pez does play a land,
How many cards you got?
that's going to be 2 more mana he has available.
And
There's
Pez
a
will
third
have to play a red
source.
source.
Not a land for Pez, or not a colored land. So like,
No.
I don't know, does Serendip do enough here if he can cast
No.
one of
In a
those?
turn.
Yep.
You know, I mean,
Well,
he's got to do it. Like, just throw it out there and see what happens,
Okay.
right? Because
Yep.
I mean, there is a chance that like the deck runs what, like 30 some odd mana sources.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I
He
guess there's a
does- he
3
does-
world.
cards in hand.
Those vices are still on the
Go for
table,
10.
right? So David can't go crazy drawing cards off a book here. He's going to be hovering between 2 and 4 cards
Play
most
City
of the
of Brass.
time here, unless he has a real good reason not to.
But
Yeah,
you've
fast.
played the deck a lot to like a lot of success.
Last
So
year.
you
Yeah.
know that like once you get your hand size down to 4, the
Yeah.
vice doesn't really matter. Like you're able to like a skilled deck player will balance the book, draw cards, and just never take any vice damage.
Yeah, and he'll hover below the vice, but what it means is he's not going to have a hand that's going to have it all, right? He can't
No.
have disenchant and swords and counter and something else.
I'll draw.
Sure.
I mean, I guess he could, but
Yeah, I mean,
No.
it just forces him to
Untap.
burn it a little faster.
Right.
But at this point,
Right.
like disenchanting the
Draw for 10.
vice is as good as
yeah, I
holding
mean he'll
the disenchant hand.
find those disenchants at some point. He's drawing 2 cards a turn right now, and he's still I mean is he on 7 life there? Is that
Gonna
what that
play
says?
Underground Sea.
Can't really see, but at this point, it's sort of
Then I will
inconsequential,
pass the
right?
turn.
Like Pez would
He's
need to
on-
rip
he's on
like side
7.
blast, side blast, side blast.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean Pez kind of has to hope to be able to burn him out here, just fight through the counter spells.
He really needs like red to get that happening.
He's, rolling in with a factory with
have
another
a strip
factory
miner in there? I
back
can't
up
see
in
with
the
the glare.
lion.
No.
And get into
Well,
some
yeah.
damage here.
There you go.
At least put himself in a position where he can maybe fire off 1 burn spell and win.
Yeah, so you just waste the lion to deal 3.
Right.
Animate my
Because
factory.
that's the other thing is like David only has
I'll
what
block
4
the line.
factories and
Sure.
Brain Geyser as his
And
oh
Brain
and
Geyser.
Mirror as his win condition.
In mirror.
Pump.
But like he still has to do that last point of damage under the mirror.
Disenchant it.
All right, there's
So, like-
a disenchant for the factory and a block on the lion, and Pez is back to his 2 vices.
Uh,
That's interesting. So that was a pretty smart play from David
turn
holding
I'll
on to
roll.
that disenchant, knowing that he didn't need to do anything about those vices yet, and he could
Yeah,
just save
untap.
that and cash it in on a factory if Pez went for it. That's what you want to do
Full
as a deck
cards,
player.
draw for 10.
You don't want to overreact to the threats. You want
Play
to
factory.
respond to them when they need to be responded to, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think that's the downside of the vice is like it's just not a good card at this point in the
Playable.
game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, my personal
draw
opinion.
7 unlikely to resolve. I mean, the
Pass the
best possible thing, I guess, is Pez wheels into. David doesn't have a counter spell. Pez wheels and he bolts him or something.
Yep.
Um,
I'm gonna draw it
that
and
just
turn.
seems like it's
Yeah.
becoming increasingly unlikely as David's now online with 2 books, and can, if he ever needs to, he's probably
Untap
found at
4 in
least one
hand.
more disenchant by now.
And he hasn't played any
Okay.
counters, correct? This game?
He hasn't played any counters, no. So he's got, out of 8 counter spells in his deck, or
Play a
7
factory.
counter spells in his deck. He's now got 3 factories, as
factories.
well, which means that Pez is staring down a moat.
I mean, at this
Yeah,
point,
that
if this
is
was a
summoning
timed
sickness.
event, I'd scoop and move
Alright,
on.
so
Fast,
animate
fast.
Yeah,
2
I think
factories.
that's right. I mean, there's here the finals
Ring.
of the Derby. It's untimed. Like
Yeah.
there's always a chance he runs out
No
of gas
bolts?
here, or doesn't have
Yeah.
the right answer at the right time.
Alright, 5.
Like make him play it out. But
Yep.
There's no
and
harm,
there's
but
a decision
there's so
fatigue
few
is
outs.
too.
Gets
Yeah.
it.
A time walk now, so he's getting in with the factories. He's time walking. David has switched his gear here. He's now in
I'll draw
what's
a
in his
book.
game mode.
Yep.
Um,
4 cards.
and Pez just doesn't have enough answers to really
Untap.
stop him from doing that. Most likely.
and David does
He'll
have.
probably. He's got 3 factories.
turn.
He's probably going to leave 1 back. just in case Pez blocks with his factory. So he'll crack in for another probably 5 damage this turn. Pez
Fair
on
planes.
is that 7 or so?
Well, he can't crack for 5, right? Because he's got to keep the ones back to pump and block.
I mean, I guess
One
he could
card
leave
in
one
hand.
back to block. Yeah, it's probably safer
still
to
need
do
the
that.
blocker,
It depends what's in his
Animate
hand.
2 factories.
So he activates an attack.
Swing.
No block.
And depending if he pumps here, he's almost certainly
Make
got
it
an
5.
answer for the other factory.
Yeah,
Yeah, so he
six.
pumps and puts Pez on 6, which is going to force Pez to
Then I
next
will
turn chump
pass the turn.
in order to not die. And one presumes here that we're going to see a disenchant and or swords coming out of David's hand to deal with these creatures. Either that or he did the math. He doesn't care.
Right.
Yeah,
If he's sitting on 2 counters, he doesn't care.
How many cards you got?
Right. If Pez can burn him, Pez doesn't have any burn. I guess he can't really have. Yeah, Pez is scooping. Everyone did the math there. Those 3 factories were coming in for 6
I'll take
next
the play.
turn, and he was going to
Sure.
outrace Pez by a turn.
Yeah, so that was interesting. That basically went as bad as it could have gone for Pez.
Yeah, pretty much.
After having
I mean,
basically
the
his
opener
best possible
was-
start.
Yep, best possible opener, and just David had the fast mana. Really, that's where, like, sometimes I think this came up the other day on the stream. Like, what is the value of Black Vice in the deck? Sometimes it doesn't do a whole lot. Like, it's not like you're ramping out a threat and you get it out 2 turns ahead of schedule, and suddenly you're in commanding position. It's like, you brain geyser for.
All right, everybody, just remember this is best out of 5. There are no sideboards for games 1 or 2, so they won't be using a sideboard for this game. So they just have to play with their initial 60. All right, while they're shuffling up, just a reminder, please, don't forget to follow. I play 3 rounds of Old School Magic every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern with the Northern Paladins as part of their Tuesday night gauntlet. So please make sure you follow and stop by the stream for that. And LobsterCom is coming up September 18th, 19th, and 20th. And registration for LobsterCom begins Wednesday, this upcoming Wednesday, August 12th. So please, if you want to play some old school Magic, some webcam games, it is definitely the place to go. And we would love it if you could go ahead and join that, and then those will also be streamed. So
Again, like Pez being on the play, like
You might see a similar Vice hand.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that the Lion play is better, just because I think like consistent sources of damage. And I know Chef and I have sort of like been tinkering with
I put the middle one
no
on top of
vices
the one on the
in
right.
these shells.
Yeah.
Just
Mhm.
because it's like
Those on
so
top of
it's
that
good
one.
on the draw or on the play, but like on the draw, I guess it's easy to side out, right? You have 4 cards, and you're just like, get rid of these. But also like when you play Vice, you're more incentivized to play Atog, which he's like a middling creature at best.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Um,
Especially just the artifact counts a little down. Like there's no onks in this list or anything
Right.
like that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to say that.
Yeah, I'm
he may have
fine
been
with it.
posed either way on turn 1 there.
Yeah.
But if he plays like factory Pearl Lion Vice, it's kind of a best of both worlds maybe.
right.
So.
Yeah.
But really, it was that strip mine that David led with, where he was able to kill that factory, put Pez on that single white mana that he had to just try to draw out of. That was
1,
kind of the
3.
for the strip mine for the strip mine should be restricted people. That's even though it's a 1 strip format, that's an example of getting stripped out of the match.
Yes.
What we just saw.
Deep.
So I think is Pez he mauled right to 6.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah, I think Pez went to 6 here. David looked like he kept his 7, I believe. And there's another.
Go.
Perfect.
Alright, so now
that
we
is the hand.
Okay, so I take
Now we
3.
see the Vice
Yeah.
Lion opener from
I'm
Pez
gonna draw
with the
turn.
jet to boot,
Sure.
and we'll see if David can do it again.
I'll play Tundra.
Just the land.
Go ahead.
Tundra, pretty Tundra, and he passes. So
I'm surprised
For
he
Pez
kept a hand
now-
with no gas first turn.
yeah,
David.
I mean it's easy to maybe he's got a swords here, get a card out of his hand that way. But you know, like it's really easy to keep a hand that's like
I'll plow
just like
the
some
factory.
lands and like an ancestral, and like kind of slowish. But all right, so he's going to swords the factory here. Pez follows it up with another factory.
Yep.
I mean,
Go.
so Pez has
I'm
one
still
card in
on
hand,
top. I
right?
pick
Or is
two.
it two?
Pez
draw?
appears to have one card in hand.
One card. Yeah.
He mulled
Play
6,
Tundra.
and that was his turn 2, and he's had a.
I'll
Yeah,
pass
so
the
there's
turn.
another Tundra for David, but he's already on 13, and he's passing the turn.
Right.
And we're just
And
going
like here's where
I'll disenchant the other
yeah, see, I
factory.
mean he's got the answers, he's trading 1 for 1,
I'll
but
take
he's already
two.
at 11.
11.
You know, and
Right.
Go. Up
This
each
is
He's
the
not gonna-
race. The fundamental tension of this matchup.
Draw for turn.
and I think with the 12 burn package, like you really just want to get your opponent to 10. If you can get him to
Mhm.
10, like you just do
Play
side blast end of
island.
turn, side blast bolt, or side blast chain,
Go ahead.
and the game's
Mhm.
over.
All right,
I'll
coming
pick
in
2.
again.
Go.
Really, by not playing cards here, Pez is almost
End of
doing
turn, I'm
extra
going to
damage as
disenchant
well with
Pearl.
that Vice by not. Yeah, see, David's firing.
Yep.
I mean, it's probably smart to just try to take Pez
Untap.
off the mana, but he's also got to get cards
What
out
do you
of his
got now?
hand.
4.
Okay.
Draw for turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, cutting him off a white is good too because it does. If he draws a lion,
Play
like
island.
lions are very good
Go ahead.
because they require a swords or something. You know, because a factory can't stop him
Yep.
the turn it comes into play. Also,
Right.
Go.
David's really low here now. He's down to 6.
Draw.
This is a precarious position to be
but
in.
again, Pez has no red mana,
Yeah.
Play
which is
Tundra.
huge.
Go ahead.
2.
All right. Back
Yep.
into the red zone.
But again, like you know, the lion just sort of does the heavy lifting with this build.
Mm-hmm.
Make
So
cards
let's
you
see.
got.
So David could play land, mirror
Go.
universe, and
But he-
switch life totals. He would have time for that.
Draw for turn.
What's
If
I
that's-
can't
if there's
actually
no other
see.
play. Now Pez hasn't played a volcanic though.
Play up planes.
So the volcanic is going to potentially
Now,
fuel a bolt
pass the turn.
combination.
Do you like Mirror Universe in these matchups, or is it too slow traditional, like usually?
I think it's too slow. He has it main deck. I personally, if I'm David, I'm boarding that out, bringing in Ivory Towers. It does the same. Ivory Tower does the same thing, but it's
Okay.
faster. You just if you get to 6
Cancel.
mana, like you might just already be dead.
Right.
All right, counters ancestral. You got to counter ancestral. All right, puts him
Wow.
at 2. Nope, there's a swords. All right, so has he stabilized? That is the question. What else does Pez have in his bag of tricks? Okay,
Did
Dib.
Yep.
Go.
So good
Untap.
sequencing from Pez there.
Draw for turn.
Make him sword the
How many cards did you have? 3.
lion
2.
before getting the bigger
Go ahead.
threat out there.
although I don't think either threat really matters. I think they're both about the same at this juncture.
Yep.
Yeah, there's an attack to put him at 1. The difference, I mean, now David's got a lot of dead stuff. So like his Cities of Brass are dead cards.
Yeah, you got it.
Time Walk will close it out for Pez.
Sideboard.
Okay, so very nice. That time we see the quick opener from Pez get there.
Yeah.
And David just didn't, just going land in one spell at a time just was not quick enough.
Well, and also like Pez was able to diversify threats, which I think is really critical when you're fighting the deck, right?
Mhm.
Because it can't. Like David has to basically keep a hand that can fight artifacts and creatures,
Yeah.
and also not lose to burn. So like that requires him to sort of prioritize, or like how do you value disenchant versus Source of Plowshares?
Sure. Yep.
And you're always. I mean, personally, like I always feel better having the threats versus the answers.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, it's easier to ask the question. If you're just asking questions, they have to have the right answer, and sometimes they don't. That lion, after he just kept hitting David and hitting David and hitting David, like he could have had 2 disenchants in his hand or something, and he's just staring there at his life total leaking out.
That's just the power of having a 2-power creature for 1 mana.
Right.
Just able to change the math enough where nothing else really matters. So now when we get to the sideboarding, this is where the game gets
sideboard. So yeah, so
interesting.
What would your sideboard plan be on Pez's deck?
I think it depends on the play draw, right? So Pez lost, so he's probably you have the benefit of knowing how David. Yeah, so Pez won, so he's
I will go
on the
first.
draw. I'm sorry.
Sure.
He's on the draw. Yeah.
So you know David, like by having his sideboard, you know that he's on the 3 Ivory Towers. Because I think I actually saw what you guys are testing now with like 1 Ivory Tower in the sideboard, or I think I saw a list that you guys were.
Yeah.
And so like that
Good one.
changes things. Knowing that David is gonna prioritize the ivory tower, I think Pez will still keep in 3 vices. Likely shaving a chain, a mana source, because the games go long enough where you don't want your hand clunking up with that mana. So he's probably gonna cut like the emerald, chain lightning, and then probably take out the ATOGs. They're kind of just crappy anyway, and he doesn't want to. I don't think David will bring in the Bebs. Like, I don't know enough about how the deck sideboards. Like, I assume that the Maze and the Ivory Towers will come in, and things like that.
So my thinking with David,
Maybe
my
the
thinking was he'll bring in the Maze, he'll bring in the 3 Ivory Towers. I think he also will swap. I think he's going to swap 3 Divine Offerings for 3 Disenchants, just because they're strictly better in this matchup. And then I think he takes out Mirror. At least if I were him, I'd take out 1 Mirror, take out 1 Tome, take out 1 Felwar, and then take out 1 other card, either Felwar or Plains. I don't think Bev is good enough. Bev is basically healing salve in this matchup, except for Wheel, and especially if Pez is taking ATOGs out. Like, I think I would expect him to take ATOGs out too. And then the other card that is in there that is a relevant card, but I don't think it's good enough, is the Bottle. I think Bottle doesn't do enough. It also kills his own cities. And Abyss just seems like it does the same thing, but better, essentially.
Where's City in a Bottle?
Is it bottles underneath the Maze of
2, 1, 3.
I can't really tell in the picture.
Those are towers.
Oh, those are. He's got 3 towers.
3 towers and a disrupting.
What's in the same row as the Maze of It?
Control Magics. I don't think he brings those in.
Magics. Oh, not even bottles. Yeah, Control Magics obviously don't do anything.
Which way you?
I don't think it's good enough.
So you froze. Put the middle one on top of that one.
I actually. Do you keep recalling here?
I mean, recall is nice because it lets you get back counter spells and factories late. Like David's got to assume he's going to lose some factories to burn, and he needs a way to win the match that's not Brain Geyser, ideally, because he also wants to draw a ton of cards. Like he might have drawn by the time he Brain Geyser kill Pez, he might have drawn 15 extra cards or something, and so it's kind of risky to try and go that low.
Yeah.
All right. We got 2 mana here for David and a Time Walk. So Explorer, it's a pretty reasonable play, I think, with Time Walk. Like sometimes people go back and forth. As long as he can play another land and maybe play a Felwar or something off of here, I think it's a good use of the Time Walk.
Yeah, I think just getting to 4 mana is like so big against for the deck, right? Because like the Abyss is just sort of shut down one of Pez's avenues of approach.
Yep.
And there's the library.
Go from Pez. That is a big game if David can't do anything about it.
So as the deck player, like,
he's got the strip, man.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, how fearful are you of a library on the opposing side, and like how aggressive do you go to break it? But we solved that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the library is a little scary because the biggest advantage you have is trying to get out to a card advantage lead here, and like library is basically a free way to start gaining card advantage. And so David, if he can't offset that in some way, he can fall behind in the answers.
You're at 6
cards?
Can
start double bolting.
No, I drew an extra one from my library.
Like he'll have 1 counter spell or something.
7, yeah.
And just not have enough cards left. So, but he's got the strip.
All right, so I'll swing in with the
He
factory.
only played 1 extra land off the Time Walk, but it was a factory. And interesting, he's getting in for some beats now while Pez is tapped out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like there's really no harm in it, right? Like he wasn't going to do anything else.
If he's not going to do anything with the mana, and maybe it signals he doesn't have Power Sync in his hand. If Pez is watching that.
But he still would have been able to Power Sync like a dip or something. So
he Power Sync a dip for 1. All right, Soul Ring. So now the mana advantage is starting to pile up again.
The City of Brass.
And another City of Brass.
How many cards does David have left in his hand at this point?
He's got to be down to about 2, I would think.
You got 5 cards, 6 cards.
Mind Twist.
Just
brutal.
Mind Twist.
So I take, and then 1, 2, 3
cards are really coming through here for
5,
David.
right?
Now David only has 1 factory though, correct?
He's got 2. No, he's got 1. Yeah,
it's only 4. You had to play the Soul Ring, right? Or
sorry.
And we'll see.
So let's just go over it. I played Soul Ring.
Maybe he's not getting his whole hand here.
Yeah.
And that's 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, I think he's getting.
Yeah, so you can do a 5-point Mind Twist. Okay.
1 card.
Something up. Okay.
Which one do you want me to keep?
Soul Ring.
Let's keep number 3.
This guy or this guy?
That guy. The second
Does
one.
he go?
Against
Is
the
my
Sorry,
hunting for 3?
This one, yeah.
That seems wrong.
Unless he does something with that. I mean, I don't know
You
if
good?
it's worth playing a Felwar here.
Yeah, good.
Chaos Orb, maybe?
Oh, maybe he did tap
might
it.
have
Just,
he used it. He
Yep.
didn't say it. Okay, he didn't tap it.
Go.
Retap. There we go.
Okay.
Good for Pez. So
Untap.
starting to get in for some damage.
Drop turn.
You gonna balance
No
me
answer
too?
here.
All right.
You're gonna top deck a dib, I guess.
Then I
Or
will
land, I guess, right?
Yeah, one of the
pass
two,
the
I
turn.
guess.
14.
All right, so nothing yet from David.
5.
Thanks for 5.
Animate factory.
And we're gonna see a
Mhm.
factory block and
Block.
kill the
I didn't even see that
lion.
guy. God damn it. Okay.
So a bluff from Pez about
Take
having
3.
a bolt there.
Time walk.
I actually like this. I like that bluff a lot,
Yep.
especially
I
we didn't know he had time walk, but I actually do like doing that a lot against the deck.
3.
I think that's a good play too. I think
Yep.
you
Go.
want to create opportunities for your opponent to make
Untap.
mistakes, and like
Draw for turn.
Pez's deck is the deck that asks you questions, right? And David has to answer the right way. And 2 life is a lot, especially when David's
Yes.
going to be leaning on those cities of brass for some of his mana here.
Because he does have the mana advantage, but like his life total is getting
Mirror.
very low. Well,
Okay, there's the mirror.
You're at
So
6?
now we might see some mana burning shenanigans
ahead.
happening
Yeah,
here.
what are
Pez
their
maybe
life-
mana burns, chooses not to mana burn.
it's weird because he knows that he
3.
doesn't have the fireball, right?
You got a blue blast in your
Right.
hand?
No.
So
You're dead then.
so
Liar.
yeah, David's gonna blue blast here
So he brought in the blue
on
blast.
the bolt.
Go.
So Pez just tried. He went for the kill. That's what Pez was doing.
I'll untap. Drop life
and
totals.
We'll still
unfortunately,
think your
David
mana
went with
burn.
the counter.
The end of David's
Yep.
turn, though.
Draw a card.
Mhm.
There's almost no
Yeah,
downside
he
in doing
still
that.
should
Attack.
have probably done that, so that could get him down at least. I mean, that was the 2 cities
I'm
of brass. That's
thinking
5 damage. He could have
You've
done
got 1
3.
card in hand.
Yeah.
And now that dib becomes a liability.
I'll play.
I can't.
Pez
Can
having
you see
just
their
2
life
life.
totals?
Go for it.
2 for Pez now, and I think 15
Okay.
for David. I think because David just had that one city of brass up, Beb was literally the only card that saved him from bolt there. And if Pez had
Right.
double bolt or something, it was over.
Well,
He may
it's
have
funny
had-
that like it was the card that we didn't think he was going to bring in saved
I'll
him.
put the last one
Right.
into this.
Yeah, healing.
Double
Sometimes I guess a healing salve saves your life, right? So
I mean,
all right,
and Pez was probably
play.
thinking the same way, right? Like
right,
he didn't assume that Bebs were coming in,
yeah.
and I think you just have to go for it.
I understand why he made that play. I also would not have expected to see the Beb come out there. I mean, maybe when he taps out, he willingly goes to 3. He was at 3 at the time,
Right.
With the with 1 mana up. Maybe you suspect maybe he's got that, but I'm not sure you change how you play if you're Pez there.
Right. I mean, the only thing you maybe could have done differently would have been not attack with the lion, time walk, attack with the dib, time walk, and then see an extra card, and then attack with the lion, because that actually would have given him another chance to draw the bolt, which makes the bluff even stronger. But I'm not saying he did the wrong thing.
Yeah, and I don't think the 2 life. If David had just let the lion hit him, the 2 life. I guess the 2 life did matter.
Right.
But David still, he called him on the bluff basically. And he may have had that Beb for a long time too. He may have just been sitting on that,
Right.
knowing that if Pez tries to bolt the dib, he's got it covered.
Yeah.
So Pez now back to the play. Looks like he changed his sideboard up a little bit.
Yeah, so I
there.
think he brings in that 4th Black Ice. And then the question is like, do you want Armageddon?
Yeah, Geddon is an interesting card.
So for full transparency, the Pez is on the same list I played in Spike Fest. So I think we played there, right, in the first pod
You did,
together.
yeah, you beat me.
But like even then, like you were on the deck, and when we built the list, Jeff and I, we like threw in a whole bunch of stuff in the sideboard because we're like, well, we don't know what to do. We're like, but Armageddon's awesome against the deck, and then I never sided. I sided in one time the entire event, and then Pez like picked up the list and used the Armageddon. We were talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, to be honest with you, it was kind of just like jank in the sideboard. But it is a really good card here.
Yeah, it's when it's good, it's good. A lot of times it's going to draw out a counter, which can be relevant. And it's if you connect with it, if you've got a threat or two on board, or the other thing too with David, because he's just trying to kill you with factories. If
Which
you
one's
can
on
get in
top?
at the right time and nug
That's
2 or
true.
3 factories,
Uh,
he can have all the
2,
card
3, 1.
advantage in the world, but he actually needs to be able to kill you
Right.
at some point.
But I
All
think their decks probably remain relatively the same.
Yeah. I mean,
It is-
neither of them have a huge difference.
Put
I
the
think
one by your
devices
phone
are
on top
probably
of the
main
middle
thing
one.
that change
Put
values,
those 2 on the other one.
play or draw. But like you said,
Yeah,
with
like
the
that.
Ivory Towers likely
Cool.
coming in, I think
Good
you
luck.
want to see.
You too.
Yeah, I think
You
you
wanna see
have
the
to
lights
keep
stay.
them in because, like, I think Ivory Tower is sometimes overrated against these Lions/Dib with like a lot of burn spells, just because they can get a threat or 2, and then
Lucky.
you have to develop your board at some point, which makes you play cards.
Right.
But
Yeah, I'll keep.
it is still a fear, right? And a
Yeah.
no mana,
Go.
like
Yep.
something you don't have to dump any
Cool.
more mana into after one time that can just deal with it.
You are on
Forcing them to disenchant that, allowing your
Yes.
factories to live is a pretty good deal.
draw.
Or Divine Offering in David's case, if he brought those in.
Mm-hmm.
Play
All
factory.
right, so the turn 1 Lion,
Emerald.
David with the factory and the mana to activate
Go
it.
ahead.
So it'll be sick for this first attack.
Yeah. So we'll get in for 2.
Yeah. Now factory for
Yep.
Pez is a pretty good
Attack.
follow.
Yep.
Go.
I think if I'm David here, I don't play any games here.
Sure.
The fact that he can attack into Pez and Pez can't block with his factory.
Play a Tundra.
Yeah, I
don't
think
lose
you just
the
take it.
bolt here. Yeah. All right, so we may see some stalemate on the board here unless Pez can play another threat.
Yep.
Okay, so a Soul Ring. That's a good card. Tap, and he's going to go in and
Do you
Yeah,
block
Blue
now
Blast,
if you're
yeah,
David?
I don't think so. I think his life is still high.
Attack.
He's at 18. I don't think you're that
So
worried about your life
animate
yet
my
to be willing
factory.
to chance it
Block
unless he's
the
got the
factory.
Blue Blast. There's
Now I'm
the
going to bolt it. Get the Blue Blast.
He's
Yeah,
got a
which
blue,
one are you blocking?
Blue Blast,
Factory.
so
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think again that's where you got to make him
Go.
have it if you're Pez.
Do you think David brought in more than just one?
Based on the frequency that we've seen them, he must have. It's a reasonable thing, I think, to take out 2 power sinks and bring in 2 Bebs at least,
Okay.
if you think that's the line.
Play a factory.
Although he also kept in the mirror,
There you
which
go.
I wouldn't have expected. But yeah, I mean, he's at least probably got 2 in there.
'Cause I would have thought he would have brought in the red before it, actually, because it deals with the dibs and the side blasts.
I don't think he doesn't have red in his deck.
Oh, that's right, he doesn't.
Yeah. All right, so here comes another attack from the Lion, showing that bolt or side blast possibility, or disenchant too.
If you're Pez, you just got to keep swinging at this point.
You do. You gotta keep asking the questions.
Because I think you only have like 3 turns before this game gets out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Cards in your hand?
David already has 4 mana and
Yeah.
1 factor. Is it 1 factor or 2? I can't see what's.
He's got 2 factories. Pez has 3 cards. David also, because he's got to respect disenchant now. He can't do like run out of tome with 4 mana and no counter backup, or at least no feign of a counter backup.
Right.
And I think if I'm David here, I'm just going to take 2 lives. Not if Pez does kill one of those lands, it's a big setback.
I'll take it.
Meanwhile, once you get 2 factories that are not summoning sick, that Lion's going to have to stop hitting, and then you start to stabilize again.
I mean, unless Pez has like the bolt disenchant.
Tundra.
Yeah, and if he has bolt disenchant,
Go ahead.
see, now David's got 2 blue up, which I think was probably big. If he's sitting on a counter spell, this would be the time to call Pez on the bluff if he's going to do that.
But now Pez might try and sequence things like, so if he has a draw 7, like a time twister, you sometimes just want to bait the counter because they only have X amount of counter spells, right? And so like if you can
That's
sort of
right.
like, get through them all, you can actually sequence it because he knows that David will
I
fight
play a
over the
land, yeah.
factory.
Yep.
So sometimes you just like, the heck with it. I'm going to like see if
Yeah.
you're going to blow your counter and then I can
Yeah.
sort of resolve
Yeah, I mean,
an actual
if he
game ender.
Okay.
If he had it, that would be a sick play. So there's a counterspell for the dib. That means David's probably not sitting
card you
on
got now?
a more favorable form of removal like a swords. And if there was a
Cool. Counterspell's gone.
time to have a wheel, it would be now.
Yeah. The non-permanent.
All right, Pez swings into the red zone. So David can't counter here. So if Pez
Right.
does have the
2
bolt, I think
cards
one of
in your
those
hand.
factories, those
Yep.
factories are both not summoning sick.
Correct.
But Pez can just wait on the bolt, or if he has Side Blast, it doesn't matter.
I'll take it.
Right. Yeah, David
so
just takes
David
it.
just takes
That's your
2.
12.
You don't want to lose a land
Mhm.
here.
Go. Your go.
David.
Untap. Draw for
This
turn.
Pez only has 2
So-
cards, right?
Pez,
It's 2.
Play an island.
David's probably got like 5 cards, and Pez, I think, has
Go
2.
ahead.
How many cards you got?
4.
Pez's body language is always interesting to try and read. Is that him having something, or is that him, not drawing a card he wants, or is that him pretending like he didn't draw a card he wants?
Yeah, I never actually pay attention to what my opponent's doing, like body language. I just literally just like pay attention to the information I know
Yeah.
and just assume that they're not having a
Factory.
poker face or trying
Yeah,
to.
it's way easier when you're sitting in
After
a
you
comfy
animate it,
chair
I
just
will-
watching people play and criticizing them. All right, so Pez goes
Disenchant.
disenchant here
Yeah.
for factory.
So,
And is
In
David
response,
going to counter that?
gonna animate the other one.
Can't power sync it.
Sure.
Use this one to
Can-
use the one that you're disenchanting to pump the one
Oh,
that
he's
you're
gonna
not.
like
He's
swap
going to
them
reactivate
around.
the other factory, cross pump that factory. And then if Pez has another burn spell,
So
or
he's a
something
3/3
to take
right
that
now.
dib out, that doesn't
So
get
it
countered, he's gonna
resolves
get
the-
2 lands off of this.
The pump resolves.
So I
Yes.
think David's explaining
Okay.
what he's
Your
doing.
disenchant resolves.
So with disenchant on the stack, he activates the other factory
I'll
with his
declare a
island,
block.
pumps
Hold on a
that
second, I'm
factory,
still
and
thinking
then
about it. He's a
declares that
3/3 right
factory as
now.
a blocker.
So it's a 3/3.
And is Pez going to have a response? Otherwise, that factory's already 3/3. And so Pez
So-
can't even bolt it. The time to bolt it was when the other factory was still around. Now we see a Side Blast
18.
here. Yes.
Sonic blasted.
Well, did you
Okay.
did you watch Pez's match against Jed, I think in the top
I'll
16?
drain the side blast.
Oh,
Yes.
where he did a similar line and balanced.
Yeah.
So that was his other thing that he
Uh-huh.
may have been doing, trying to balance to get rid of both of
Hold on a
David's
second. After you
factories,
put
but
the
it
pump
didn't
on the stack, I will lightning bolt it
Oh, fuck.
So there's
yeah.
a
Yeah,
bolt.
so
So
this guy is
Pez
not dead 'cause
maybe
beforehand.
could have sequenced
This
that
is tapped.
differently and not
Go.
lost his.
I took a
Oh,
damage
he,
from
he
that.
did have the bolt, so they changed.
Yeah, that worked out
maybe.
well.
They figured that out. Okay, so Pez does have enough to get the
All right.
2
Yeah, go.
factories off the table there. So now this is
Untap.
where again,
That's
if you're
mana.
David, you need recall in the deck most likely to.
And David's in top tech mode, right? He has no cards
He
in
is,
hand?
and he's only sitting 4 mana now.
Play a book.
Soul Ring.
Yeah.
There's a book. He's got 3 mana floating
Play
off
City
of
of Brass.
that.
I'll pass.
And he may
You got
have
one card,
mana
right?
burned here.
Yeah,
He-
one card.
Wait, why did he mana?
No,
Does he?
It's 2.
He didn't have to tap the emerald.
Yep.
Right.
to do
He didn't
that.
have to tap the Soul Ring, right? He had 3 because he
I'll
side
take
he
the
mana
damage
drained
and
the
roll.
Side Blast.
Soul Ring.
Yeah.
He
9.
played Soul Ring off of Psionic Blast mana. And
Okay.
Now
then,
untap.
and then had
Draw.
2 mana left from that and only needed to tap his Soul Ring. So
Play
that's
Underground
fine.
Sea.
I don't think it matters.
Draw.
Maybe ultimately
Yeah.
what that would have done is saved him a damage off of City of Brass when he drew off of that tome,
Play a pearl. Pass.
besides the mana burn. But
2.
all right, so Pez is getting
Yep.
in there. Now the tome is starting to do work for David, though. Pez has
Ancestral myself.
to close this
Ooh.
out. Ancestral is a really good way to try to do that.
Counter.
There's another
Yeah.
counter spell.
Go.
And it looks like David's on 7 is what that says to me.
Untap. Draw.
Pez on 18.
I'll draw off the book.
Main phase draw for David. So he's looking for something here.
Right.
Either that or he's comfortable behind his 4 blue mana.
I mean, I guess if he has a counterspell in hand, he's just going to draw and try and keep making land drops, right?
I'm at
Right.
17.
Oh, 17.
All right.
And see, this is where
so,
like Pez also doesn't have a regrowth in his deck.
mhm.
So, as he starts to use a lot of his gas,
Straight
there are
line, go.
fewer options to get it back later as the game goes on.
Mhm.
It's 2.
All right. So David's still looking for answers, though.
Go.
Taking hits off of that
Untap.
lion.
Draw for turn.
Yeah, I
Pez is
probably.
two-
I'll draw off the book.
I mean,
two
there's some
attacks from turning
value.
off the City of Brass.
Yeah, there's some value in like
Stuff
keeping some of those
Ruby.
lands in hand. So I don't think Pez brought in the Armageddon.
Go ahead.
if you're pondering, because I think he would have sandbagged that City of Brass there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's probably a good point.
Um,
Okay, so David's at 3 now. He's got to be able to stop this bolt, or that's going to be the ball game. It looks like he's got a counter, though.
Can a Divine Offering the book?
oh,
Yeah,
Divine
offering
Offering.
his own
That's
book.
actually
So
great.
that is, I mean, you got to do that, but that's for Pez. That's a
Go.
very promising sign.
Untap.
You've taken
Draw.
him off the card advantage engine
Yeah,
now,
sure thing.
and you're still there attacking with your threat.
Green guy?
He's
Oh, he got him.
Yeah, and he just scooped it up.
Man, that
Right.
pump on the factory. helped
Lion,
out.
man. Told you.
Lion getting
Yeah.
there. So this is it. This is what we everyone was hoping for. We're down
Thank
to
you.
the final match here, or the final game.
No problem.
2-2 split.
Turn the favor
And I think
anytime.
We're seeing what these decks are capable of on both sides.
So knowing that this is the last game and you're on the play as David, do you like, as a deck player, do you aggressively mold for something like that's good, or are you comfortable because you're on the play just developing
And at that point,
like
I
a
would
decent
just
hand
draw
with mana
lands.
and like a factory?
I think you're still comfortable with that because the deck is about card advantage, right? That's how it wins. And like, if you have a hand that has reasonable plays and has some kind of answers, like factory is some kind of an answer. It's not as good as swords, but it does answer
Are you on the
a
play?
lion or an opposing factory in a fashion. And so you want to be able, you would rather, I think, depending on what all the cards are, but you would rather be able to keep 7 and play reasonably than like go to 6 and look for that, Mox, Lotus, land, Mind Twist hand or something like that.
It's funny you mention that because like we haven't really seen, like outside of the double Black Vice, like Pez's starts have been fairly pedestrian, right? There've been like a Black
a
Vice,
lot
a
of
Savannah Lion.
Land Lion,
Land, yep.
Factory Mox Lion. And then for David, like we haven't seen him really do much either. I mean, the biggest play he had was turn 1, game 1, which was like
Okay,
Mox,
put the middle
Lotus,
one on top
land,
of the one on the
and
right,
then Mox
and then both of those on top of the other.
War.
Yeah, same for
Well,
you.
his Explorer of
Well,
his
good
Time
luck.
Walk was actually one of the
Okay.
more explosive starts we've seen, actually.
Yeah, which, I mean, if his play, I don't know what else was in his hand. He followed that up with just a factory, which is an interesting decision because you later on that time walk it can be like a time walk plus half an ancestral or something too,
Right.
with books and libraries and all that stuff on the table. So you only sort of cash it in early like that. Either if you, based on your hand, you think that's going to put you in a good, good position to answer. Like maybe you time walk yourself into having counterspell up or something. That's like very reasonable.
But it does turn on his factory, though, right? Like, I mean, there's some value, I guess, in having an unaffected by some this factory.
Yeah, if I'm David, I'm just not that scared of the first threat. Like
Right.
getting hit once or twice by a lion is like, it's not the end of the world, right? Like there's only one life point which matters, and that's the last one. And so you don't want to. You're kind of trading future card advantage for present life points if you're playing it just to do that, which can be reasonable, but again,
middle
it just depends
onto
on your
top
hand.
of
So.
left.
But another interesting thing, actually, we haven't seen an Ivory Tower from David.
Do you think he did import him in?
It's possible. I mean, that would certainly, if you're not porting those in, you've got more room to bring in stuff like the Bebs.
Right.
Maybe he's come to the same conclusion that against these Lion Div Bolt decks, it's just not fast enough.
All right.
Yeah.
Library go.
Mirror, is that a library? No, that's a library
Yeah, it
from
is.
him. So
You know what? The
he's off to
library's
the
not
races
very
here.
good in this position, I think.
Draw for turn.
Yeah.
If you're on the Lion Dib.
Gonna draw
Because,
the library?
Like, unfortunately, Pez had no play, which is weird.
He mulled to 6 though, so
He
he
plays
may have
Sapphire
a turn to Dib. That would be like a reasonable
into Ivory.
Right.
to keep on.
Go ahead.
There's the Ivory Tower.
You good?
So having Ivory
Yep.
Tower and the library online is just it's
Test
4
on
mana,
myself.
four cards
Yep.
a turn or 4 life a turn, and he's going to get out of control here pretty quickly. If
Yeah,
can
Pez needs a
answer
bite.
something. He needs a vice. He needs a strip mine. So we must have drawn that
Lightning you.
either the plateau or the
Yep.
lion or
Here
both
you go.
off of that ancestral.
Cards in your hand.
Starts to go to work
4.
with the chain lightning on David's life.
Go untap.
It's just hard because that
6.
train
I gain 2
basically
life.
is like a
Yeah,
push,
I mean,
right?
he just
Gonna
neutralized.
draw for
He
turn.
countered the chain lightning effectively here with the library.
Gonna draw
plus
the library.
Tower combination.
Yeah.
I don't think he had enough cards in hand to be able to library in response to the Ivory Tower trigger. It looked like he drew for turn, then drew for library. So, but he'll be on that next turn unless Pez can force him to get some cards out of his hand. If I'm David here, I'm just wanting to get
You're on
counterspell online and then
6
just sit
cards
around
in
and just
hand.
collect life points.
No, 4 cards.
I mean, Pez does have a decent amount of cards in hand.
He ancestral, so like he's playing the card advantage. They're probably close to even on cards at this point.
Right. Except for the fact that the Chain Lightning basically traded was a net minus, like, you just lost a card.
He
Sure,
paid a card for 1 life for 1 turn because the but really Chain Lightning doesn't do anything else. It doesn't kill factories, so you just point it at David's head when you have a spare mana, I guess.
Yeah, that's oftentimes why you just
Factory.
side one out, because it's just not
Go ahead.
enough.
All right, so the factory for David means he can hold back the lion
You're just taking it?
in theory.
Yep.
So I got you at 17.
Not sick, but he doesn't have counter up right now. If Pez is going to do something, it's got to be now. The balance here.
Disenchant Ivory Tower.
Disenchant. Good. That'll help. Unless he can't. David can't power sync. Bev doesn't work. So that's big right there. Real big.
I mean, the problem is he doesn't have enough pressure on him really to make him be punished for drawing that library.
Yeah.
So he really needed like a draw 7 there, right? Like a wheel would have just been fantastic because it refills his hand.
Play a jet.
And he's off to the races.
Yeah.
Like he had to
David's
get something
still
through.
David doesn't have double blue
How many
yet.
cards in your hand?
So despite having a handful of cards, he's only got Bev and Power Sync as possible counterspells. No white
exactly
mana.
enough there, man.
Before is going to go for a book, I'd assume. No, a Mind Twist
Blast
for 3. And then a Side Blast. So nice play from Pez there to use his mana.
Yep.
A bolt and a was it a bolt and a sword?
City of Brass, I think.
A City of Brass. Okay. Yeah, he doesn't have swords. Okay, so Pez has just got to keep coming in here. I believe David's on 11 is what that says right now.
Untap. Draw for turn.
How many cards you got now?
I mean, he still doesn't have double blue.
He still does not. That library's going to keep going.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, Pez there, if he's got a bolt or something like that, should maybe, in response to the library trigger, shoot it off if that's his plan, rather than waiting for end step, giving David a chance to play another land or draw another card off library. But we'll see what he does, what Pez does.
You want a tutor?
Do it.
Tutor. So Tutor.
For another Ivory
Twist
Tower?
is in the graveyard. Yeah, probably Ivory Tower. I don't think you need Ancestral here. You've got the library online, a full hand of cards. You're not that worried about like swordsing the lion as long as you can get Ivory Tower online. So
I guess Pez only has 1 card, so what are the odds he actually has a disenchant, right?
right.
Did you get a counterspell to stop my wheel, or did you get a
that's
sword
probably the
splash?
math that David's doing. And even if he does, like again, this is David's built for the long haul, and like if he can make Pez spend those disenchants and find a way to not die, and then those disenchants just aren't available to stop his tomes later.
Right.
Okay, Lotus. So he probably got Lotus
Tower?
there.
Yeah.
No, he played himself down to 7 cards.
Go ahead.
And he played the
Have
tower.
you got
So
now?
yeah, that's the DT for tower
Six,
most
sorry.
likely. Pez doesn't have a disenchant end step there. The Lotus puts counter up, and I think you would definitely crack the Lotus to counter and save the tower at this point.
Yes.
Go.
So untap, gain
And
2.
David's gonna untap.
Draw for turn. I'll draw off the library.
And he'll draw. So he's drawing for turn first, so he's only gaining 2 life that turn back to
Their
11.
factory.
Another
Then I
land
will.
of a factory, it appears. In the
Yeah,
glare.
but at this point, like, it's almost becoming academic.
Mhm.
Because like every 2
Two
point, like
cards
every
in your
2
hand.
life he gains is essentially a card from Pez. Right, so it's
Right.
like an additional card. So he's now like ancestral.
Pass the turn.
He's getting
He's
ancestral
gaining-
every
He's going
turn.
to start gaining for a turn this next turn if Pez doesn't have something here. All right, so there's a dib. Just
Dib.
keep asking questions. That's what Pez's deck does.
Sure.
David probably. If I'm David, I just let that slide. That's fine.
Go.
And to gain 4 life off a turn off
Right.
the tower, you can deal with that later.
Because he
I'm gonna
doesn't want to let like a
untap-
balance or something get through.
Trigger on the stack.
Yeah,
Draw.
gotcha.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
he
so you're at
stacks the
4, right?
tower first,
Yeah.
then draws with library in response, goes to 8 cards in hand, gains 4 life off the tower, and that'll be happening
then I draw
for
for
the
turn.
foreseeable future.
Is
There's no
that-
reason to
Are
go
there
off
2
that
factories
later.
there? The glare is just so bad.
Yeah, the glare is bad enough. I think it's 2 factories, and then now he's got a second blue source out of the underground sea.
You get
So we might
Cast
see a
Abyss?
book here, just to
Abyss?
really.
Yes.
Oh, the
Sure.
abyss! Oh my!
But Pez does get
Wow.
1 free attack, right? Because the lion is basically
He
worthless
does.
at this stage.
Yep. So yeah, the abyss is
Go
is
ahead.
a hard one for Pez. Again, that's where his disenchants are just stretched so thin.
17.
Well, that's why like we were testing orders. So if you're not on red, like order is just backbreaking in this situation,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because your factories don't stop it, and your abyss doesn't deal with it. You have to
Go.
And
source
you have more
plowshares.
white mana without splashing for
So
red.
untap.
Yeah.
7 in hand.
So
Library draw.
Pez gets in for his 3. David's gonna untap though, gain 4 life, and net himself back to positive territory.
I draw for turn.
Sure.
I think he's up to. He should be at.
There's
where's he at here?
factory.
I can't really see his life counter.
Play an emerald.
16 life. He has 16. Is that right? Maybe 16 for him, 17 for Pez.
Then I'm gonna.
I mean, I think Pez
Animate
is
1
about to
factory.
have,
Yeah.
no threats on the board.
I'll
Right.
pump it once.
And then,
Sure.
and then David just
I'll pump it
he's
twice.
far enough ahead at
Yeah.
that point. I think he starts getting in
I'll
with
swing.
the factories.
Yeah, I mean, you assume he's got a counterspell in hand, so he can basically swing
Yeah.
for,
He's
however
Then I
much he wants,
will-
whether it's 4.
Pass the turn.
Is that what he's doing here?
Do I still take 1 from this?
Yeah.
I think, right?
Put Pez down to
Yeah.
12. And he's going to attack for 6 next turn, I would assume. As Chaos Orb will do
Chaos
something.
Yeah.
Slow the pain. And he maybe, it's probably too little too late.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking.
Really,
I'm
the
thinking.
card that won this was Library for David. It's just so backbreaking.
What was
The
library
time
with
Pez had
the
it.
tower?
Yeah, with the tower,
Cards
it's
in
just, it's just
2.
sick. Like it's a disgusting.
Like, I
in an
think
awesome
Pez
way.
could have raced one of the
Thing.
2, but not both in tandem.
Mhm.
Like that
Right.
that synergy was just too much. The card advantage and the life advantage, because it's like,
Yeah,
again, every 3 points of life or 2 life points of life, it's essentially a card. So you're just
Right.
getting 2
I'll
or 3
counter
to
it.
1 every turn.
yeah. And there's a counter
go, my
for
man.
All right.
the
So
orb,
I'm down to
which will have the
6.
effect of making
Cards
David
in hand.
wait until after his turn
That's my
to draw for
graveyard.
turn to draw for
It's my
library.
final factories.
So I guess
Well,
that's
actually,
So I
why
gain
did
2.
David
damage.
counter the orb?
I draw
don't
for
care.
turn.
I don't. I mean, it's. I don't
Your
think
life
it
total-
matters,
Gonna
but
draw
it's
for
probably
library.
correct. To do
Because your life
that.
total's so high, right? Like, what is Pez going to take out? He's got to take out the ivory
Play a
tower.
strip mine.
I think you take out the library. I honestly, you just
Really?
got to get that thing off. You died a card advantage, right? And the life was a follow up from that.
Animate factory.
But like as long as
Yep.
Pump it.
David's just
Yep.
got so many cards,
Pump
and
it.
with the abyss
Sure.
is a ton of virtual card advantage.
Tap.
8.
So it's really hard to say though. All 3 of those cards are just killing him right now. The
Then I'll
abyss, the
pass
tower,
the
the
turn.
library. It's the trifecta against Pez's deck. So in the game that Pez had
Yep.
turn 1 library, David had
Yep.
strip, and like that's the tail of the tape here.
So
I think.
untap. I'll do the library.
So- all right, so David does the tower
And
I'll draw.
library trick again, gains
And
4
then
life,
I'll draw for turn.
up to
And I mean-
83,000 life.
Play a
Again,
pearl.
like, it's also just tower. Like, David saw more restricted cards this game than
Yeah.
Pez did.
Yeah.
Really, this
Animate
match, I feel
factory.
like he had a lot of good
Pump it.
restricted cards
Yeah.
in
Pump
the
it.
first 2 games, I think, which he did lose the second one, but and like
Then I will
that's why
go
you
to
play the deck. You
discard.
put all the best
Yep.
cards in there. You put
Gonna
like
discard.
regrowth, like recall
Divine
unrestricted
Offering.
now, but whatever
Sure.
does the same thing.
Go ahead.
Right.
And all the blue power, I
And
guess
like
there's no
having
time-
mana drain is so good.
Yeah, mana
Oh.
drain powers so many busted plays. Just value mana draining
Untap.
his dib like he did, I think, last game.
The
Just to
side
get
blast.
3 mana.
Draw.
I think that was
One,
either
two,
this
three,
game or
4.
last game was the mana drain on like a dib or a power sink or something
I'll
for
draw
the
for
3 mana
turn.
that he used. It must have been the last game
Play
because
a
then he did the
Tundra.
Soul Ring and book and all that. But for
Cards in
that
your hand.
value that you get,
3.
it's all tempo, right? Like
Right.
card advantage and tempo, and have this like underlying relationship with each other that
In that animated
you can
factory.
trade them for each other
Yep.
a lot of times, and they synergize.
Pump
You,
it.
you get more
Sure.
Pump it.
more tempo. The deck turns tempo into card advantage. What it does. So, all right, disenchant from Pez finally.
2
So
cards in hand.
you
Yeah.
gotta keep playing your game here, right? Make him kill you.
I don't know what
Don't
else
just
he
give it away.
has.
Yeah.
I think it's
Counter.
Yep.
It's a counter again from David. Yeah.
Right.
Pez
Oh.
picks him up.
what a
Yeah.
game. That was actually a great match, or great match and great game.
Yeah, that match was really good. Both players played technically very well. They made each other have the
Yeah, I'm
right
interested to see
plays
your
in
sideboard
response.
plan.
Lots of good decisions.
I mean,
Nobody
there's
had to
disenchant.
mull themselves into oblivion or anything either. So
I mean, you're taking
Yeah, I
what,
mean,
like
it comes
Pogs
down to
out?
at the end of the
Yeah.
day, we say what we want.
Especially after I saw the blue blast.
all right,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we're
I
gonna
mean,
switch
yeah. Blue
over
Blast
to
is
other
not.
chat.
It's not brilliant against you, but it's sort of mediocre.
All right.
Yep.
So he took out the stones. He did take out the recall.
Yeah. Took out the recall, and is that Brain Geyser you took out, David, too?
Yeah, brain geyser. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, all of the like durdling slow stuff is just
Mm-hmm.
kind of has to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you know, like I was kind of I sideboarded a lot. With the benefit of deck list, it's very easy to just swap out Divine Offerings for Disenchant.
Right.
No, he's not playing Energy Flux or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, I sideboarded a whole bunch of stuff, like 9
Yeah.
cards.
So the blue blasts turned out to be really important a couple of
Exactly.
times during that match also, which was a card Seth and I were talking. I said I probably wouldn't have brought them in. You did, and it worked, I think, obviously. But like, what was your thought process around the blue blast?
Yeah, so it was a choice between, you know, obviously I have Control Magic, so Control Magic and the Blue Blasts. I think
Mhm.
I was kind of worried about either taking control of Dib and it burning me to death, because I mean, like, I can't race him, right? Or about it just sitting there in my hand as a massive, you know, beast when I'm in a vice lock.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know what? No, I don't really want that. So I just these are like diminishing returns. I mean, he doesn't have that much great stuff, but I've got so much trash that I really want to take out that they kind of made their way in. And yeah, they were great for the combat tricks. I mean, I'm still kicking myself for the ridiculousness in Game 4, but you know.
Yeah, I guess we were. What was maybe the stream actually heard you guys talking through it, but it looked to us like you guys were working through the order of resolution on the disenchant, the activate and repump the factory in response,
Right.
and
And
the
the
side blast
Side
and the
Blast.
bolt and the blue blast,
Yeah,
and like all of that to kill your
We
factories.
got all the way through that. It was a 3/3 factory blocking a 2/1 Savannah Lion, and then I, like a moron, tapped it to make it a 4/4, and then he bolted it in response. So then it was gone, and then he.
Oh,
Got it. Okay.
Because I went.
Yeah, that was an
I had
interesting sequence. So
you know, I had it protected, and then at the end I like lost
Right.
my mind.
And then I think the last game, aside from showing off the power of library, showed how good Ivory Tower can be in this matchup. So you DT'd, was that for also the Ivory Tower?
No, I actually DP'd for the Lotus because
Mhm.
I was like a little short on mana,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, you know what, I want to have a counter spell. I didn't have a counter spell up without it, and so it was either going to act as like countering something really awful like a Mind Twist or a Twister or something,
Mm-hmm.
or the next turn I could have used it to drop a Abyss or something if it really came down to it. So it was a DT for a Lotus. I drew the second Ivory Tower.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the Mind Twist in my hand too. I didn't have the black.
Yeah, that was, I think, Pez, one of a few games that we saw you just not getting the mana to cast your stuff. But So Pez, let's talk about your sideboarding a little bit here. So fairly small amount of stuff here, but you brought in the disenchants, obviously. So what was the logic on this?
Well, I took out a Vice earlier too for an Armageddon.
Okay.
I switched that back to get back to 4 Vices. I mean, Disenchant's just to get rid of the Abyss or Ivory Tower or a Factory during combat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really need the ATOGs, especially after I see the Blue Blast. I just shave a Chain Lightning, and I cut Mox Emerald every time for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I mean, I think, yeah, maybe without the ATOGs, it's just kind of a mana rock.
It's pretty tight. There's not too much to cut. I figured the last colorless Mox, it's always like a freebie.
I guess I'm interested when you would ever board in the second Armageddon. It feels like a must counter for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I guess I was wondering, like, you know, what's the matchup where you're doing 2 Armageddons, right? Like, I don't know.
I had one in there for a while, but I don't know.
So I think I'll ask this question to both of you guys just because I think it's interesting to find out what your thoughts are. But like, you've both at this point had tremendous success here with these decks. Obviously, you've come all the way to the finals of the largest old school event ever, 256 players. David, you won. Pez, you put up a hell of a fight, finishing with 2 wins and just getting knocked out by Library. So what would you change about your decks at this point, if anything, David?
So I would probably swap the Mirror Universe for an Ivory Tower in the main. You know, I think it's just more reliable. There's so many disenchants around that it's just like, I can DT for something that's going to, you know, win me games that I shouldn't otherwise be winning.
Mm-hmm.
In the sideboard, I think Maze of Ith. So I never sided in. I never used in the entire 12 rounds control magics.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I would probably at least I'd change one into another Maze of Ith, maybe both, because it's so ridiculous in a 1-strip format.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe a hymn could become a Disrupting Scepter. You know, I didn't have another one, but yeah.
Well, it's got to be alpha, right? Or you can't put it in your deck.
Yeah. I don't have another alpha one, yeah.
And Pez, how about you? What would you change, if anything, about your deck?
I'd put the regrowth. I need the regrowth multiple times this event. It would have been great.
Mm-hmm. Regrowth.
Everything else I'm pretty solid on. I like the list.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think the audience definitely agreed that was one hell of a match.
Yeah.
Pez, condolences on second place again. Dave, congratulations on winning. Seth and Sean, thank you very much for doing commentary on this match. And all 4 of you, thank you very much for allowing me to stream this match. I definitely appreciate it. I'm glad that I can do this for the old school community. So.
All right, thanks for hosting us.
All right.
Yeah, thanks everyone. It was a fun time.
Yeah.
Congrats,
Thanks,
David.
guys.
Pez, awesome job. Nothing to slouch at your result.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rich, for hosting. Everyone sign up for LobsterCom and watch Rich stream on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
guys. Have a great night. Okay.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. So, watch my stream regularly scheduled at 8 p.m. on Tuesday nights. And don't forget to sign up for LobsterCom. Registration begins this Wednesday, August 12th. It'll be a 3-day affair. So, it should definitely be some fun. So, thank you all for watching. I appreciate everybody who joined the stream today, everybody who was in the stream, everybody who was in the chat, everybody who has watched any of the Derby streams, and especially thanks to Dave Firthbard for putting on such a tremendous event. 256 players over the course of several weeks, and it came down to this. And you couldn't have asked for a better final, where it came down to game number 5. So, again, I'm signing off. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, everybody, and I hope you all have a great night.